And in this year of mercy, he calls us to contemplate the merciful gaze of the Father. And what this requires of each of us is to rediscover God's face, to see with new eyes the one who loves us so intensely, each one of us, and who calls us to be mercy to others. Now, we can look around in our daily lives, in our world, that we're searching all for that desperate example of compassion and love, because when we see around us, it's all about getting ahead, making money, being successful, perhaps tearing down the other so that we can look better, or getting revenge when somebody hurts us. Yet, every human being, each one of us, deep down, desires compassion, forgiveness, mercy, connection, and to be accepted for who we are. And God accepts us for who we are. We are all seeking that face of mercy, the face of God. As daughters of St. Paul, we work in media and communications, and so we have bookstores all around the country, like the one in Redwood City, the Pauline Book and Media Center. But I was stationed in our book center in New York City. And one time, a young man comes in the center. And in New York, you get a conglomeration of all of humanity present. But this young man walks in, and he was obviously homeless, probably about 19 years old. And you can imagine, I could only imagine, what tragedy had befallen him. Perhaps he thought he was going to make it big in New York. And was his family worriedly seeking for him? Yet he came in and he had these big eyes of desperation looking at me. So I went up to him and said, "Can I help you with something?" However, some tragedy must have caused him to be unable to speak, because he couldn't tell me, but I could see it in his eyes. So I went to the back room and I got as much food as I can, whatever our lunches were for that day for the sisters, and I put it out. I told the sisters, "Sorry, you don't have lunch today," and put it out for them. Poured it for him. And I gave him some money to take a subway to a place where he can get a bed for that night. But he couldn't speak. He couldn't tell me what his needs were. And I just keep remembering his eyes, his gaze at me, desperate for a sense of gratitude. I could tell he was thankful, but just in shock to, what do I do next? He was lost, like the prodigal in today's gospel, longing for someone to embrace him. And when I turned around to do something and I looked back, he was gone. And I always wonder about him. I always pray for him. And in order to be mercy, we have to recognize the mercy of God for us. We recognize our own need for mercy, our own weaknesses and sins, and asking God for mercy. But sometimes it's too easy to look at the sins of others and notice the terrible, evil in the world, or even the disconcerting messages of popular culture. And they are there. But often we can be ready to judge and condemn others or the culture. But we have to instead take on a new vision. We need to take and look at the world with love and mercy, as Jesus tells us in today's gospel of the prodigal son. Let's look at the Father of mercy. The monk Thomas Merton tells us, to choose the world is not merely a pious admission that the world is acceptable because it comes from the hand of God, but it is first of all an acceptance of a task and a vocation in the world, in history and in time. We are to choose the world, is to choose to do the work I am capable of doing in collaboration with others, to make the world a better place, more free, more just, more livable, more human. And in other words, more merciful. And there are 7 qualities of mercy that are present in today's gospel, the prodigal son. And the first is generosity. If we look at the Father, he gives away everything he has, everything he's worked for all his life, and he gives it to his sons. He doesn't hold anything back. The second quality is gentleness. He loves the prodigal instead of scolding him. Now, don't each of us respond better to love than to a scolding? Right, kids? Right? We do. Humility. The Father leaves the Son free to make decisions, even if they're the wrong ones. The Father lets go. The fourth is communicativeness. The Father expresses his love and joy at the Son's return. He throws a party for him. And the fifth is patience. The Father is infinitely patient with each of us. He waits for us to come to our senses, just as he does the prodigal son. And forgiveness. God doesn't hold grudges. He calls us each freely to receive his forgiveness, especially in the sacrament of confession, the sacrament of reconciliation, which is offered freely for us. We receive God's mercy tangibly, concretely, and we can let that go. What burdens us? So each of these qualities, in a way, is a way for us not only to view our own lives and the lives with others and our life with God, but it's also a way to view the whole popular culture, the world in which we live, the media culture, to put on a lens of mercy. And we find these qualities of mercy present even within the culture itself. Because, okay, do you all watch movies? Okay, it's okay, because the sisters are raising their hand. You can raise your hand too. Do you watch movies? Okay. See, the sisters, we all watch movies. The movies tell stories, and they're stories that challenge us to consider the gentleness that breeds kindness, like in the movie Brooklyn or Cinderella. The ones that talk of true examples of compassion, of humble service, such as in Concussion. The movies that question us about what is truly human, in like the movie Star Wars, or even in Inside Out, the animated movie. It talks about feelings, but also virtues. So all of movies in the contemporary culture can be a place where God is at work, where God teaches us about life and how we can be that presence of mercy in the world. Because everybody is longing for that sense of connection, a sense of meaning and purpose in life. And artists, such as movie makers or any form of art, touch deeply upon these longings. So we, as Catholics, are called to view the world with this merciful gaze of the Father. And I call it that we are called to become cultural mystics, to bring that love, hope, and joy to a world that desires authentic love and authentic hope. So I invite you to come to the Lenten Parish Mission this week to reflect together on how film, so we're going to watch a lot of film clips, can be a way to engage the popular culture and bring the gospel of mercy to it. So bring your families, the teenagers, and we'll talk about how these 7 qualities of mercy are present within our popular culture of film. And how then we, each of us, as ambassadors of Christ, can respond to the needs of humanity today, within our culture today. So I hope you will join us as we reflect together on how each of us can be the merciful face of the Father. God bless you.